Charlie says, always tell your mummy before you watch one of Grimm's videos, because he swears a lot.
It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and because I'm as mad as a box of frogs, I like to support these kind of efforts, these kind of things, to raise awareness, get people help, educate people on what it's like living with mental issues, because it helps me cope with it. Honestly, it's quite selfish. But the theme this month is for mind, for body. So they're trying to tie together things you can do to aid your mental health, to do with physicality and socialization and all those kinds of things, to help people with self-care and to make people more aware of the social interactions that people with mental issues might have. And this is broken down into several subtopics, which I've been covering in these videos. So today's video is about socialization. So I'll go through the kind of things that they suggest and they talk about, and then I'll relate my own experience when it comes to this. The basic central idea is that loneliness is bad for your health. Being lonely can cause psychological and physical damage because it's increased stress. You know, we're social animals. If we don't interact with our monkey sphere of like 100 people that we really can know and keep track of, it has a detrimental effect on us. More stress, higher blood pressure, strain on your heart, your circulatory system, all those kind of things. And a social support network is obviously useful when you're ill. It can help recovery, it can pick up some of the slack. Though I think a lot of people who suffer, like I do, feel very guilty about asking for support from friends and family. But if you do have a strong support network who look after you, it is a lot easier to cope, whether it's long-term, something that's never going to go away, or whether it's short-term, helping you with recovery. Loneliness and stress can aggravate other conditions that you have, so your recovery rate goes down if you have cancer, for example. So there's plenty of good reasons to interact with other people. You'll live longer, helps you stay active, gives you people to do things with, to take vacations or small breaks with. But it's a problem for a lot of people with mental health issues, because we feel like outsiders to an extent, I think. Not unless you've suffered or you've been close with someone who has suffered from mental illness, it can be very hard to understand, and so that can be isolating for the person with the mental health issues. People hedge around the topic, don't discuss it, don't necessarily ask you what you need or what they can do to help, because frequently there aren't any answers, and also just because it's such a taboo topic, and it really shouldn't be. If you are mental, you can often feel that you're being cut out and left apart from things. Now, being introverted is also a thing. Personally, I find social situations incredibly stressful in and of themselves, but the problem I have is that when I'm feeling sociable, I don't necessarily have the option to be sociable. I work from home and I work for myself, so I'm isolated in that way. I live rurally, which is quite isolating as well, especially if you're into the kind of things that I am. You know, there are clubs and societies and stuff, amateur dramatics and, you know, yoga and boxercise, and there's a little art collective, but they all do twee watercolors. It's not my sort of thing, really. You know, there is stuff, there are activities locally, but they're not for me. If you follow. Anything that I might want to get involved in is further afield, which requires driving, which is a massive stressor for me, and all kinds of other issues. So most of the time it's me and my cats, and that's pretty much the extent to it. And since I've been dieting, I haven't been going over the village shop so much, which was kind of my little social interaction every couple of days or two. I have friends, but they live further afield, and I only get to see them maybe every month and a half. Yeah, and we don't necessarily talk about stuff, important emotional issues. I think this is particularly tricky for men. There were some articles recently about how men don't make friends and women are carrying the burden. I thought that was a bit unfair, because a lot of women, a lot of wives and partners, fortunately not mine, but they're very down on a guy's hobbies and the things that he does to have a social circle, and get jealous if they're not the absolute centre of their world all the time. So often a wife or partner or whatever is the only outlet a man has to talk about his issues, talk about his problems, and so on. And that's part of being in a partnership, isn't it? It seems a little odd. Men don't necessarily get together and communicate and deal with their issues in the same way as women. They might get together to do something practical, or to go fish or hunt or play a sport. None of these are things that interest me, but something that's doing rather than talking, and so on. I think we have to acknowledge the differences between men and women when it comes to socialization, when it comes to dealing with and talking out their problems. And the mental health care system, at least here in the UK, is very much a one-size-fits-all talk therapy sort of thing that isn't necessarily very good. I mean, I could go to group sessions, but I'm deeply uncomfortable with that kind of thing. So if you're someone like me, there aren't a lot of options. Fortunately, you've always been fairly introverted if you're like me, and my therapy is a book, a cat, and a drink. Maybe that's not the healthiest, but yeah, the problem I have is that I don't have the option to be sociable when I feel like it. So as a result, I spend a lot of time on social media. Now, some studies have come out saying that's not as bad as people thought, but it does have a very slight depressing effect, because you're constantly bombarded with the negativity in the world. But for me, social media has been a huge boon. I think it's all about picking your interactions, what you want to do with it, using different social media for different things. So if you want a fight, you log on to Twitter. If you want to catch up with friends and family and make a few jokey comments, maybe you log into Facebook. You use different social media streams for different purposes. I think that's a way of dealing with it. But for me, at least, working from home, being isolated physically and socially and so on, my social media friends are, my internet friends, are as close to me as anyone, really. Just the fact that we don't meet up in meet space doesn't make that much of a difference. I don't think. Friendship's friendship. The internet's just another medium of communication, like speaking, like being around people. I think there's a prejudice against it amongst older people that's slowly going to fade away. People were terrified of novels or the telephone back in the day, so it's not that surprising, I guess. So my advice, I don't really know, because my own situation is difficult with the social anxiety, aggravates it. Where I live and so on makes problems, and even when I set out to do something like a regular RPG session online, it always falls through, either because of other people or this time because of me. I need to get back on that. But it's worth the effort. It does provide structure to your life, and there's a reciprocity you build up with your friends. They do something for you, you do something for them. You show appreciation for each other, even if you don't necessarily say it verbally, because you're a dude, and dudes don't do that. But I do think we need to think about this for everyone in all manner of situations like mine, situations where people feel alone amongst plenty in cities. people who aren't interested in sport or whatever else they might be trying to push at the time. We need more options, and we need more tailored options, and I do think we need to understand that men process this stuff differently and find different kinds of socialization more effective. Zang.